The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I cut it really close this morning. We are already in the show open. So away we go, my friends. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No
There's a lot of stuff going on. It's crazy.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. It's great to have you along. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. So, day 2 of the Republican National Convention, and you had a lot of praise coming from folks that had previously been critics of Donald Trump. Nikki Haley, Governor Ron DeSantis, both talked about Donald Trump, and Nikki Haley in particular, I think, really just very forcefully endorsed Donald Trump. And she said that it was President Trump, the former president, she said, who asked me to speak at this convention in the name of unity. It was a gracious invitation, and I was happy to accept. And she said, I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period. And then she went on to talk about, she said, if we have 4 more years of Biden or a single day of Harris, our country will be badly worse off. For the sake of our nation, we have to go with Donald Trump, she said. So we get Nikki Haley again. Their relationship has been rocky, and Nikki Haley was very honest about that. She said she's had disagreements with Donald Trump. And she said, you don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. And she said, we have a country to save, and a unified Republican Party is essential for saving her. And so she spoke very forcefully to, I mean, again, the crowd was a little bit, at first it was a little bit tepid, I think. There was a response for Nikki Haley. By the time she was done, that had changed. It certainly appeared that she had won over the crowd at the Republican National Convention. So you also had Governor Ron DeSantis then speaking last night, and DeSantis very similar. You're hearing some of the cuts this morning of DeSantis on Fox News Radio. So he said, my fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House, he said. And he, much like Nikki Haley, criticized the president over his age and his concerns that he's not legally capable to serve another 4 years. DeSantis said, we need a commander-in-chief who can lead 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. He said, America cannot afford 4 more years of a weekend at Bernie's presidency. There's a lot of reaction to that. What it is, a weekend at Bernie's presidency. Very well said. So, also Laura Trump, then on the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, as a lot of us are. And I still, is that still very much on your mind? Still very, very, very much on my mind. Has been at the convention last night. Some of the other big moments, the Washington Examiner, Governor Jim Justice was there from West Virginia, along with Baby Dog. He went out with his pet dog up onto the stage, and folks are loving Baby Dog. So Baby Dog was one of the big moments. Also, as we were talking about Nikki Haley, apparently the Texas delegation was warned yesterday morning not to boo Nikki Haley when she addressed the convention later that they said, we don't want to have any booze tonight. No booze at all. It's really important. We've got to show up. We've got to show complete unity. And so to my knowledge, there weren't any that I was aware of. I would say again, the reaction to Nikki Haley was probably tepid, especially at first. Also, Washington Examiner says, or one of the other moments is this is inside the Pennsylvania delegation breakfast yesterday. Attendees were surprised with two speakers who whipped out their impression skills. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Laura Trump. Johnson claimed he was talking about at Trump, and he impersonated Trump. You know, the, according to reports, it was pretty funny. Also, Laura Trump recalled a moment when her father-in-law asked her to accept the position as co-chair of the Republican National Committee, and she's doing her Trump impression. Honey, you're the perfect person. It's got to be you. No pressure if you don't want to do it. Everybody wants you to, but if you don't want to, and so those impressions were getting laughs. Also, there were a number of prominent conservatives who were spotted at Capitol Grill last night, included Senator Mike Lee of Utah. Also, Mike Lindell, the CEO of My Pillow, as well as others. And apparently, some of those folks at the convention were seen with white coverings over their right ears. Like that's their, showing unity with Trump by wearing a white bandage over their right ears. So that's kind of the scene at the day two of the Republican National Convention. Now, there's a lot of other news to share with you this morning, big stories. And Fox News has this: a former classmate of the, this guy who tried to assassinate Donald Trump, Thomas Matthew Crooks, former classmate of Crooks, is saying that the gunman used to mock him. They were classmates, and he said he mocked him over his support for Donald Trump. And he said, I brought this is at the time they were in high school. And he said, I brought up the fact that I'm Hispanic. I'm for Trump. And he said, well, you're Hispanic, so shouldn't you hate Trump? And his reaction was, no, he's great. He was a great president. And he called me stupid. Well, insinuated that I was stupid, he says. So they were in English class together at Bethel Park High School during the 2016 campaign. And he said of the shooter, he said he just did not like politicians, especially with the choices that we had. He did not like our politicians, he said. And he said that he was usually quiet on certain topics that he's passionate about, including math and politics. On those issues, he could be smug and arrogant. He said he would just talk, and act like he knew everything, especially politics related. And he would just say it in a tone that was like, I'm better than you, in a type of way. People put that kind of stuff up. That's an interesting story. I have Fox News.com this morning, interview that he did with Fox News. So also the FBI cracked remember there was issue of getting into the shooter's home. And it took them, I think, about 40 minutes. It took the FBI about 40 minutes. And now we're learning the FBI used Israeli technology to break into the phone. This was, according to the Washington Post, they reported this yesterday. They used Celebrite in order to hack into the phone of Thomas Crooks. And apparently he used an assault rifle legally purchased by his father 11 years prior to this. And as we talked about at length this week, he killed one person, critically injured two others, and Nick, just amazing that Donald Trump was not severely hurt. So Dan Bongino, or known to many of us, you may not know that Dan Bongino was himself a Secret Service agent for more than 10 years. And there's been a lot of discussion over that rooftop and whether or not the Secret Service should have been there. And so Bongino was on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast, which is called Triggered. And Bongino, according to that roof was supposed to be a police post. There was supposed to be someone there, he said. They're now making up excuses saying the pitch of the roof, was too steep. Too steep. That's why they're. And he's calling that excuse. He said, my source says no one knows why the post didn't show up. He was also told that the director had been given instructions from the administration to the DHS secretary. If you want to keep your job, we'll keep your mouth shut about this. This is according to Dan Bongino. This is the story actually coming from FoxNews.com. So there's how did the shooter get up on the top? That there were questions. The shooter scaled that building with a ladder. Apparently, he climbed on. There was an air conditioner unit on the side of the building. He got on top of that, and then from there was able to. There is a lot more regarding this. A lot of us wondered about the local police officer who apparently was climbing up onto the building. This is one of the reasons why I've said it many times on this program. Better to wait until we get more information rather than just immediately knee-jerk react to some of these things. Because as more information comes out, you get a much clearer picture of what was going on. That police officer who was climbing up on the roof, he wasn't totally up on the roof yet. He's climbing up onto the roof where the shooter is located. He's got one leg up, and and the gunman points his rifle at him. Now, and he had two choices. He could either continue to climb up onto the roof and be shot dead, or he could drop. And he dropped about 8 feet. That's a pretty significant fall. So he dropped about 8 feet to the ground. And by then the shooter was firing shots. And so law enforcement giving us a better story. This is a story from the New York Post this morning, and it's the Butler County Sheriff defending the Butler Township police officer who confronted Crooks. And he said the officer, it's not like he had face to face. Again, he was in the midst of the local officer had been hoisted up by another officer, and it was while he was hanging off the edge of the roof, he was spotted by Crooks, who then pointed his rifle at him. And so right now, the shooter is training on the president. These guys breached the roof, so he turns around and potentially eliminates that threat. And he said the officer is like, I'm dead or I drop. And so he dropped. And then he turns back around, and again, Moments later is when he started firing shots. So we're getting a clearer picture of what it. Again, can you imagine yourself in that situation? And I think the sheriff put it very well. I'm dead or I drop. That's your choice. What would you do? Really, unless you're in that situation, God forbid. But this is what law enforcement is confronted with. And you can't fault the officer for dropping to the ground. Um, there are a lot of questions, though, about Secret Service and whether Secret Service should have been on that roof. Also, Donald Trump, by the way, called the man who was killed at the rally on Saturday was a retired firefighter, Tory, and Donald Trump called her, offered his condolences yesterday. She said on her Facebook page of Trump, he was very kind. Said he would continue to help me in the days and weeks ahead. She wrote, "I told him the same thing I told everyone else. He left this world. She's not taking on a husband. He left this world a hero, and God welcomed him in. He did not die in vain that day. He was protecting his family. Pretty incredible. Protecting his family. More than I'm going to have time. This stack of stuff is just growing by the day. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. So let's not waste time. Donald Trump on True Social said the radical left Democrats are desperately trying to play the ref by calling for an illegal and unconstitutional attack on our sacred United States Supreme Court. Yeah, they're going after the court. Have you heard this? He said the reason that these communists are so despondent is that their unlawful witch hunts are failing everywhere. The Democrats are attempting to interfere in the presidential election, destroy our justice system by attacking their political opponent, me, and our honorable Supreme Court. We have to fight for our fair and independent courts and protect our country. Trump said about 12 hours ago. Social. Axios has a piece this morning. This was the top story when I was on Axios this morning. Headline was Biden's rescue operation leaning left to survive. And since his disastrous debate last month, President Biden has embraced a laundry list of left wing policy proposals. This is exactly what you're saying. This is exactly what the president's doing. Strong armed the party's nomination process, still tried to limit spontaneous restricted votes. It saved his candidacy for now. This is left leaning piece. We got another piece that the Democrat lawmakers in Congress, again, leaning axiom, Democrat members of Congress reviving a fight over President Biden's candidacy following a brief respite in the wake of Saturday's assassination against Trump. Axios says some lawmakers are uneasy about the Democratic National Committee's plans to forge ahead with the virtual roll call vote to nominate Biden weeks before the Democratic convention. So that fight's not over yet. It'll be interesting to see this starting to be rekindled. We're going to talk about this morning. You've seen the photo. Everyone's seen the photo. And I touched on it yesterday. The photo of Donald Trump with his fist in the air. Is that photo iconic? That's what you and I talk about. Fox News has the story this morning that a photo editor who is unnamed at a major news outlet, again, I don't know who this is, but it's based on a story that was coming also from Axios. Said dangerous for the media to highlight the historic photo of President Trump. And an Axios media trend assessment yesterday said the overuse of the iconic image can pose risks, citing unnamed photographers who were reportedly told the outlet that promoting the viral photos could be a form of a photo tanda campaign because the Trump campaign will use them to further their agenda. So rather than allowing that, you see so many of us, I keep hearing person after person is saying that photo is absolutely iconic. So of course the media is trying to kill. There are a lot of questions about Secret Service. Washington Post. I want to share some of the headlines from legacy media this morning. Washington Post. Right-wing influencers use Trump assassination attempt to attack DEI. In other words, diversity, equity, and women in the Secret Service. Uh, the Telegraph. Diversity hires Secret Service chief blamed for Trump's shooting security failing. Fortune. How did DEI get mixed up in the fallout over the Trump assassination attempt? So that's the way it's being reported by legacy media. The Telegraph story that I mentioned, I think Tim Burchett, who was a Republican congressman, pointed the finger at the director of Secret Service at Kimberly Cheadle. He wants more, or excuse me, he wants her to resign as the director of the Secret Service. So those cries are growing. And you just heard it on the Fox News Rundown prior to this program this morning. They were talking about that. So a growing number of cries that she stepped down. And that's a look at at least most of the big stories this morning. It's really great to have you along. Thanks so much for starting your day with the Great Belfrage Show. Here at Jello, or whether you're watching on YouTube, great to have you along. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Wow, I mean, there are a lot of things that are going on. It's absolutely incredible. So I was afraid it might not actually get started on time, but we made it. Not by much, but we made it. And apparently, the president, this is a piece from townhall.com. President has been holding a series of calls with the various factions in the House Democratic caucus, and they've not gone well. The call with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus devolved into total mayhem last week. On top of being late to the call, Representative Mike Levin of California called on Biden to step aside, and which led to the call abruptly ending. So the Biden administration, these are Democrats. They didn't want to hear any of it. Just absolutely incredible what's going on. This administration is literally just falling apart as you and I watch this. He is really trying to survive, I think. All right, we'll get you some local news headlines. Excuse me, coming up here in just a moment. See what's going on in the Kello.com newsroom. There we go. I gotta get a temperature here too. Excuse me. We really were late to get started this morning, so I apologize.
That's right, the first business enlisted. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter.
Okay.
ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Oh, shoot. I'm not gonna have time here. And in Sioux Falls at 6:30, it's partly cloudy and 56. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. Local headlines coming up in moments here at Kello.
The vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance speaks at the Republican convention tonight. We've heard from former President Trump's primary rivals, including Nikki Haley.
For the sake of our nation, we have to go with Donald Trump.
Let's make the 45th president of the United States the 47th president of the United States.
And that's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. President Biden speaks to the NAACP convention in Las Vegas.
I promised myself, I promised America, my administration would look like America.
Polls show he lost support of some black voters. He addresses the convention of a Hispanic advocacy group.
Really?
In Las Vegas
Does this
today.
look like America? What's going on?
Is considering a push for term limits and
Wow.
an enforceable ethics code for the Supreme Court justices. America is listening to Fox News.
Hello, News Time 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman at the Kello.com News Center. The Home Rule Charter was brought before the Minnehaha County Commissioners yesterday. The idea would change the structure of county government and calls for appointing rather than electing the county auditor, treasurer, and register of deeds. But some residents, like Michael Stanglin, see the move as targeted towards county auditor Lee Anderson.
You don't like the way the primary election went. You don't like that we refused to go away. You don't like that in spite of how much you try and tear down our county auditor, she continues to do her job and we continue to support her.
Supporters say it's a better way to govern locally. Joe Kirby was one of the primary supporters of Home Rule for the city of Sioux Falls in the 1990s and has been pushing for a similar move by the county.
For 30 years, we've been advocating. The county put up a home rule charter for the voters to consider. I encourage you to seriously consider it and put it to the voters to see what the voters think.
The commission tabled the proposal, but may revisit it soon. With still more than 2 weeks until the event kicks off, the crowds are already starting to build for the 84th annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Thousands of motorcyclists from around the world are expected to attend, and the event starts on August 2nd. Augustana Hockey has been granted full CCHA membership a year early. Conference officials say Augustana's support of its hockey program has been impressive. The Vikings will start play in the Central Collegiate Hockey Association this fall, one season ahead of schedule. And the Canaries had a rough start to their 3-game series against Cleveland. Birds lost to the Railroaders 1-5. Game 2 is tonight at 7. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9. Mostly sunny skies today and a high temperature at 76. North winds at 5 to 15. For tonight, mainly clear conditions and cooler, low at 53. Tomorrow, rebounding to 78 in the afternoon, mostly sunny skies. And Friday's high temperature 81. Chances of rain by Friday night into Saturday. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens. From the Sioux Empire to the world, outer space, and beyond, if there's something fascinating, we're talking about it. Hello, News Talk 1320 107.9.
This story should get your attention because it's only a matter of time before some group will try to pull this off in America. I'm Kim Commando for NetSuite. Attention business owners, get a one-of-a-kind flexible financing program at netsuite.com/Kim. 10 days ago, a requirement for all cars in the European Union countries went into effect. It's an AI device that controls your car's engine. It's called Intelligent Speed Assistance, or ISA. It uses GPS data and your car's onboard cameras to read street and compute your speed in real time as you drive. This data is instantly sent to the government in place when you drive the record, of course, but even more. ISA's artificial intelligence will intervene first to illuminate a warning message on your car's dash. If you ignore it, ISA next pushes your accelerator back towards your foot. If you push back, ISA takes control and slows the car. It's just like having a government bureaucrat right in the front seat. Get my free newsletter at gethim.com. Okay, quick math. The less your business spends on operations on multiple systems on delivering your product or service, the more money you keep. It's obvious. But with higher expenses on materials,
Senator Mike Rounds is going to be on the program a little bit later this morning. He'll join us just after 8 o'clock. And given all the things that are going on right now, the assassination attempt on Trump, we've also got Senator Menendez found guilty yesterday. Um, just a whole lot of things. The Republican National Convention underway. A lot of things to get into with Senator Mike Rounds. So he'll join us on Tello this morning at 8:05 Central. Well, forgive me for falling quiet here during some of these times. I'm trying to put things in an order that makes sense. And I'm trying to gather my own thoughts. Some of this, in a lot of these stories, I'm just seeing for the first time this morning. So I'm trying to get my own thoughts together as the morning goes on.
Finding a quick dough with fresh ingredients is, but you're just the whole family.
Got some of these stories. I'll have more details for you coming up here in a moment. But the shooter bought 50 rounds of ammo hours before the assassination attempt. He also had a transmitter on him. This guy he apparently an officer. This was a local law enforcement officer who spotted a suspicious man carrying a rangefinder in or just outside of the venue before Donald Trump spoke and these shots were fired. So the Secret Service director, she's got to go. And I think that story I shared and comments by Dan Bongino, I think, are really, really kind of insightful because himself is a former Secret Service officer, so he was part of the Secret Service. So he knows people from within, and was talking about. No, forgive me. I lost it, but it's pretty incredible. All right, here we go. 6:38, partly cloudy and 56. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, the young man who took a shot at Donald Trump, according to reports, apparently bought 50 rounds of ammunition just hours before carrying out the attack. So he was the young man, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, identified by law enforcement. He was the gunman on Saturday. And senior law enforcement officials told CNN that Crooks had bought a large amount of ammo from a local gun store shortly before the attack. And the FBI then would not confirm whether or not that report was true, but they had they let it be known yesterday that they had gained access to Crook's phone and will continue to analyze his electronic devices. I think it took them about 40 minutes. I saw took the FBI about 40 minutes, and they were able to crack his phone using some Israeli technology that allowed them to do that. Also, An officer reported a man at the Trump rally Saturday with a rangefinder 30 minutes before the assassination attempt. And this was happening in or just outside the venue before Trump took the stage. So the officer reported the sighting to state police. He took a photo. There was a discussion about whether what he was carrying was a pair of binoculars. And keep in mind, those would be make some degree of sense because a rangefinder, you don't know exactly what it is. It's somebody who's taking photos or got a pair of binoculars or what is it that they actually have. It takes a little bit of time to discern those things. The real question is why there wasn't a Secret Service agent on top of the roof where the shooter was located. And this was an interview with the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle. She said Monday that the shape of the roof that the assassin sat on played a role in the Secret Service that not securing the building, the slope of the roof, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, you hear these things, and I just put them up against the measure of common sense. Um, I used to live, I think of the home that I used when I owned a home, story and a half New England style house, fairly steep roof, and I have to get up there and paint, and, and I managed to do it. I mean, so the idea that a sloped roof it was not significantly sloped. It's not, you know what I mean? It's just absurd. Anybody who's ever painted a home knows that's absurd. It's crazy. Also, Congress now launching investigations into the security failure. So members of Congress from both parties announced plans on Monday to investigate how that shooter was able to get within striking distance of Trump, and they want answers. And this is coming from a number of different folks. The Democrat chair of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, Gary Peters, also Rand Paul of Kentucky, announced that their panel will conduct a bipartisan investigation. They will hold a hearing, they said. Also, Jim Comer, chair of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, announced that the director of the Secret Service would appear before the panel on July 22nd, to be coming up next week. Comer said questions remain about how a rooftop within proximity to President Trump was left unsecure. And the fact that Cheadle has not been fired as the director of the Secret Service, as well as others, you can't tell me that this is. You've got to believe this is a problem with top management of the Secret Service. What in the world is going on? Talk about agencies that need a top to bottom review. Also, there's a story that's trending this morning that the Secret Service ramped up security following they had received some intelligence about an Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump. And there's no indication that this shooter on who took a shot at Trump on Saturday, he wasn't connected to that. But Secret Service had beefed up and ramped up their security because they knew of this Iranian plot. How does no, seriously? Okay, so they have ramped up security. They have credible intelligence of an Iranian plot to kill Trump. And yet they couldn't stop this 20-year-old from taking a shot at Trump. Again, I mean, common sense just leads you to go, what is going on at that agency? They're aware, and yet we see glaring security problems, even amidst the fact that we know there are Iranian plots to kill Trump. Seriously, I find myself more and more and more at a loss for words. Just incredible. Other stories that are trending this morning. The stocks of gun manufacturers have surged after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So their stocks saw a sharp rise on Monday. Smith and Wesson saw an 11% increase. Sturm, Ruger and Company rose by 7%. And so strategists get into this. Will that persist or will it fade? But they were immediately up in the wake of the Republican National Convention, and so there's among stories trending about coming in this case from the Guardian. Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, were rivals during the Republican primaries. Haley went on to say she would vote for him, and then yesterday enthusiastically endorsed him. She gave Trump her strong endorsement. Ron DeSantis was also there. He went after the president, I think, incredibly well. So Trump and J.D. Vance were both at the convention to watch the primetime speakers. Neither of them gave remarks. I think Vance speaks tonight, I believe, and then Trump tomorrow night. You seen the story involving Jack Black? Jack Black, he's got a comic rock outfit called Tenacious D, and they were performing in and I think it was Australia. They were out on tour, and so Jack Black, and there's video of this, shows Black singing "Happy Birthday" to one of his band members. His name is Kyle Gass. So they're singing "Happy Birthday" to Kyle Gass on stage, and the birthday cake then's presented to Gass, and Black tells Gass to make a wish. And with that, he waits a few seconds and he says, "Don't miss Trump next time." Well, that's been getting a lot of reaction and anger from a number of people. And so Jack Black posted on his Instagram page yesterday morning. Jack Black said Jack Black didn't seem to have any issues with it while he was on stage, and it was not going over well on social media. So I don't know whether Jack Black was honestly incensed by what happened, or if he is just trying to safeguard his own reputation now and get out in front of this in the wake of a lot of people who are, frankly, they're pissed off over this. And so Jack Black said on Instagram, "I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it's appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I'm grateful to the fans for their support and understanding." So Jack Black apologizing for what happened and that remark that was being made. That's worth talking about. We talked at length, about these the woman who was released by the Sioux Falls School District this week, similar kind of comments. There are a lot of people who are making them. And I was listening to the boys on Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. You know, and they were, talking about it in some of their friends and families and folks that are close to them. That's a reaction from a growing number of people. That is very, very concerning. That is pointing to some serious problems that our country faces when that's a reaction from a lot of folks. It's just, it's staggering, I think, what we've seen. Other stories trending at of course, the Republican National Convention. I think there will be a lot more stories that will be trending from the RNC. Trending story is generally lag a day or so. Not always, but oftentimes they can lag a little bit. And the president of the Teamsters Union thanked Donald Trump for having the backbone to invite, have the union speak at the Republican convention for the first time. And O'Brien praised Trump as a tough SOB and a candidate who was not afraid of hearing this new loud, is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. Today, the Teamsters are here to say that we are not beholden to anyone or any party, he said. We will create an agenda and work with a bipartisan coalition ready to accomplish something real for the American worker. And I don't care about getting criticized. It's an honor to be the first Teamster in our 121-year history to address the Republican National Convention. And he said President Trump had the backbone to open the doors to this Republican convention, and that's unprecedented. No other nominee in the race would have invited the Teamsters into this arena. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want, but one thing is clear. President Trump is a candidate who is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. What an incredible moment, I think. And this, I think you're going to see some of this from Donald Trump in the wake of, and again, he reached out to Nikki Haley, encouraged her, called her personally, encouraged her to come and please address the RNC. So things are changing, which is pretty incredible. You had a guy who wanted Donald Trump dead, just being very candid. I mean, that's a reality. So he wanted Donald Trump dead. In reality, it's bringing forward some really instrumental, significant changes in the Republican Party and a unity that I don't think I've ever seen. It's just absolutely incredible. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. apologized on X after a video of him having a private phone conversation with Donald Trump was leaked on Tuesday. And Kennedy said, when President Trump called me, I was taping with an in-house videographer. I should have ordered the videographer to stop recording immediately. I am mortified that this was posted. I apologize to the president. And so the conversation was out there that Trump was having with Kennedy, and it was this videographer who was there and caught the footage of that, and then goes ahead and posts it without Kennedy's approval, and Kennedy was none too happy about it. At least that's what he said. I don't trust anybody, anything anymore. He got to that point. It's crazy. The president is seriously considering endorsing major reforms at the Supreme Court. Here we go. President is moving left. He is moving hard left to try to grab whatever support he can because he's in serious trouble. So he is moving hard well. And so it would make him the first sitting president in generations and to back changes to the way the Supreme Court operates. So he wants term limits for Supreme Court justices. He also wants an amendment to overturn their immunity ruling and so on. So he really wants to go after the U.S. Supreme Court. Also, the president has ramped up his, excuse me, sorry for that. President has ramped up media appearances. He spoke on a wide range of issues with Speedy Mormon complex and addressed Donald Trump's support in the hip hop community. So this was an interview that was taped. It was being 360 Speedy. So early in the interview, Speedy noted that they didn't have a lot of time. The edited clip ran about 20 minutes. One of his first questions with Biden was about his age, his decision to stay in the race. Biden reiterated that he had to finish the job. Speedy asked Biden about Trump's appeal to hip hop artists. And the president said, well, I'm not sure that he has that allegiance, number one. Well, that's what they're saying. He did several. That's what they're saying. So, well, but the president says, I'm not sure that he has that allegiance, number one. Number two, if you look at his record in terms of African Americans and minorities, it's abysmal the way he handles everything. And that story is trending, to my astonishment. Also, there was a man wearing a ski mask who was armed with an AK-47 who was arrested near the Republican National Convention this week. This happened Monday. So here we are, hours after the attempt on Donald Trump's life, the Republican National Convention, and now is this then, are other people being incited then by events to do the same? I think many of us are asking that question. So he would thankfully he was stopped. He was carrying a tactical bag that had an AK-47 and ammunition inside, and he was masked. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Great to have you along. Partly cloudy and 56. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Has traveled many miles.
Well, that's it for this morning, my friend. Thanks so much for letting me join you. Very much appreciated. I hope if you like what we're doing, hit the like button, hit the dislike button. It's just great to have you along. Thank you so much. Hope you'll be with us coming up at 9:30 this morning for the after the program. Do an after show each day, generally with new headlines from this morning, because sometimes there are events that are occurring in these hours that I'm on the air. So I hope you can join me at 9:30. Take care, my friend. So long until then, and may God bless.
Your Canaries memory this summer at the Birdcage. Tickets.sfcanaries.com.
The doctor's office that mixed up your files has your social